Well, that's parliamentary speech.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to, it's already November 3rd, the Executive Committee meeting for the Richmond Regional Transportation Planning Organization. And Ms. Firestone, please roll call, please, and certification of a quorum, and then we'll dive into a short, relatively short agenda.
Yes, sir. Town of Ashland, Mr. Hodges.
Here.
Charles City County, Mr. Atkins.
Here.
Chesterfield County, Mr. Holland. Goochland County Chair Lumpkins.
Here.
Hanover County Vice Chair Peterson.
Here.
Ranco County, Ms. O'Bannon. Here. New Kent County, Ms. Page. Powhatan County, Mr. Williams. City of Richmond, Dr. Newbill. That concludes the roll call for attendance, and we do have a quorum.
We do have a quorum. Thank you. And nobody has asked to participate remotely for this session. We do have a request for remote participation in the policy board meeting, so we will test out our new policy that we adopted. Excuse me, that we adopted last month for that. But we're good to go this morning. I will turn it over to catch up on my agenda. Thank you. Yeah, before I flip the page at the bottom, consideration of amendments. Policy board members, does anybody have any requests for amendments, changes, additions to our meeting agenda? Seeing none, we will proceed with the agenda as presented. And first item of business is approval of our last month's executive committee meeting minutes. Chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Hodges, thank you. Ms. O'Bannon, thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Okay, Mr. Parsons, your report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't really have a lot of substance to the Secretary's report for the Executive Committee. I do want to thank board members for your flexibility and as we transition to the new office and being able to come up here to Ashland to meet at Creative. As you can see at on the bottom of the agenda, we are moving around for the next month or so, and the next meeting will be down in Colonial Heights, back at the VDOT Richmond District Office. So many of you have been there for CBTA or other meetings. It's a great space, and we're looking forward to getting back down there with our partners at VDOT. I guess, Mr. Chair, I don't really have any other information.
Okay. Board committee members, any questions, comments? All right. I know on the agenda we have 30 minutes listed for the transportation forum planning. I can't imagine we're going to take that long unless we're going to figure the whole thing out right now. But we do have, Chet and I did chat, and so we have some ideas that we'd like to share, and probably easiest if Chet, you take the lead on the discussion. I know this is the first time we all recall from last month that the policy board voted to let the executive committee just run with the planning. And so that's what we're going to do. We do have some ideas. I'm hoping we can host it in Goochland County. And we're also looking at an April. The ideas we're talking about would lend itself better to an April date. So that's kind of where we are, but I'll let Chet share with some other, some of our whiteboarding and brainstorming ideas that we have, and invite your feedback.
Why April? Just curious.
Why April? Why April? That will become apparent when we talk about the content and the timing. And I think I like the idea also because we've done it in June, and I think maybe a little earlier. We aren't getting into the summer and the holidays. But anyway, this is open. This this, we're inviting ideas, reactions to this initial thought, and then of course, ideas. So Chet, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have, again, the ideas are basically just discussion points that Mr. Lumpkins and I have had. And we have not checked with our other partners in the region, but we think that it might be a great opportunity. As you recall, the last transportation forum was in Powhatan. There was some discussion afterwards at the board about participation and how can we garner more participation from across the region outside of the PPO or Plan RVA or the people that already know what's going on. And one of the ideas that we've had was to try and loop in the chamber RVA in more of a substantial role. And Ms. Savannah asked why April. Every year, in a normal year, the chamber does an intercity visit in May, usually May, June timeframe. And we think that it might be a help to chamber members and everybody who has signed up for that trip to get more of a transportation primer from the people that do it the best, which is TPO in our region. So we're thinking about organizing the forum around learning more about regional cooperation, especially in the transportation field, so that people who are going on that trip and everybody else in the region who wants to participate and can participate can learn more about what we're doing at the TPO, at the CBTA, to foster that cooperation and move transportation forward.
That sounds interesting. Do you know where the intercity?
You know, I don't recall, but
Just from
yeah.
a transportation.
Right. But I think that the idea would be to split the day into different components. And I know Mr. Lumpkins has some ideas about what that would look like, but to really focus on a couple things. The kick off the day with a review of what the TPO has accomplished, how it works with the CBTA, and to kind of hit the highlights of what makes this region unique in terms of being able to leverage funding, being able to put together a coordinated transportation plan, working with how we work with VDOT, DRPT, and other partners, the CTV, the General Assembly, because it is somewhat unique in Virginia as opposed to other parts of the country. And the idea there would be not to focus on our members, but to create a session that is more informative for people who might be tuning in for the first time or attending from other areas. So more of an educational component to introduce the idea of regional planning to more people. We are looking at probably doing a morning session organized around lunch to kind of do a couple different interactive opportunities. The first hour would be somewhat of an overview of, like I said, the TPO and the CBTA, what makes it unique. We would take a break. And then I believe the break might be, how does transportation work in each of our communities?
Yeah, well, and I think one of the things we talked about, and again, please, and this is kind of an interactive, informal session. So if you have some thoughts, but what I thought would be informative to us and any of our regional partners that are not, in transportation up to their eyeballs like we are, but to invite each VDOT as well, but to invite VDOT, but then our transportation departments. I know the larger jurisdictions have larger transportation departments.
You're looking at it.
Right, and I understand. So people could hear Mr. Williams said we're looking at them, and I think that's the same in other jurisdictions. But at least the larger jurisdictions, and I know Goochland has one person that is new to transportation, and I've already talked to him about, and he when I described it to him, he said it sounds like a science fair, and maybe that's a good way to describe it. where we're hoping that maybe, we start at 8:30, 9 o'clock. And at a high level, I think we should not try to take the whole day. I think if we start at 8:30, 9 o'clock and wrap up by 1:30, and ideally we will have lunch, and I think kind of lunch at 12:30 to 1:30, and then just wrap it up after that. Let people go. I think people are more interested. If we have food, they're more likely to come. And if we say eat lunch and then your day is yours. So morning session like Chet described. Then I was thinking half an hour, 45 minutes, where we have in the hallway or outside the main meeting area, tables set up where our local transportation teams can have 1 or 2 persons attending. And for the smaller jurisdictions, we can maybe we can do something creative in conjunction with VDOT. But the idea would be for us and our partners to be able to talk to the local transportation, the staff folks, and say, what do you, tell me a little bit about what projects, what's going on in Henrico and, in the city and any other jurisdiction that we can just talk a little bit about what is the vision. I think I would find that informative for me, but certainly I think for the partners like Chet was describing, if they're interested. Ms. O'Bannon.
Yeah. We need a little flash. In the past, we usually either had the jurisdiction selected a site that was related to transportation. I really loved going up to the one in Hanover, the Harley Davidson place. I wanted to get on my Harley Davidson sweatshirt.
Patricia paid.
Okay. And then in the city, we went to the train station, with the glass and all that, and how you transformed the train station. So if there's something like that, but when we went to Ashland, but it was really cool because the flash was in the presentations. There were a couple of presentations that were really, I'd say, outstanding. Is that where we did the self-driving cars or? Was that
Yes,
another?
I think so. And you were also near the railroad tracks.
Yeah.
So,
The idea though is to somehow connect it to transportation. I remember we talked about the rail.
I
So
like
that's what I mean. So the location, or I don't think we had a cool location in Henrico, but we did talk about, certain items. Yeah, we went to the
Little
line.
Bill was very interesting.
So we were gonna show you the panels, the solar panels, but I don't think we got around to it.
Well, I
But
like
we
it.
talked about stuff on, but you need something that's kind of nifty, cool, flashy.
Starting with make the location
the
a little more
location.
relevant, just a
Yeah.
meeting place, something like that.
And, that's what, in the past, that's what people feel.
Train station or the downtown train station.
And I know we talked about the self-driving cars, I think was the kind of the futuristic. But I know what they did was they told us it would involve the roads because you had to put it on the side of the road kind of thing, they put the discussions. You probably remember that. Didn't you do that? Oh, you can't hear back there? That's bad. When we did the self-driving cars. Yeah, were you involved? No, you were. Okay.
Just go ahead and introduce yourself. So
Sharon Snidler, Henrico Transportation Development Division Director.
thank you. So please continue the discussion.
I thought you.
Sorry.
But that was it was really different and unique and unusual, and nobody had really heard it or thought about it. Some issues that maybe it's uncommon.
Mr. Peterson, did you?
Yeah, I had, well, first of all, I'm sorry I wasn't here last month, because I would have voted to put Mr. Williams in charge of a separate committee to do this. Instead of, but the experience counts. But the most exciting thing that I've heard so far is getting the Chamber RVA.
Yeah.
Because the discussions we had after last year, and it wasn't just last year, before, it all came down to us sitting and talking to each other. And that doesn't do any good for anybody. And as Ms. O'Bannon said, getting some pizzazz, some flash involved. Maybe even if we have some special transportation to get people to the event. We work with the GRTC to get a pulse ride. Special day. Something to get the general public excited about what we're doing. And so so that it's just not us doing the talking. It's, we've got to get the public interested in what we're doing, and can't get them interested in what we're doing if we're talking about a new interchange at Gate Road.
Yeah, we've been
If
talking
that,
about.
although we might get the people in Western Henrico involved, but the people in Chesterfield could care less on that as far as coming to the farm. So we got to have something that really attracts everybody from all over the region that they're going to really say, hey, that sounds pretty neat. I really would like to hear something about that. Well, I mean, I'm way up here right now, but if we don't have those kind of things, we're still going to be just talking to each other.
Well,
Right.
self-driving cars are running over people and having accidents. I'm not sure we want to do that one. But I mean, that would get attention. It's just something that's.
EVs, EVs
Okay.
versus fossil fuels. These are things that are
Alright.
very much impact. We don't, if we're going to EVs, how do we fuel them up going up and down our highways? How do, when we go into EVs, are we going to go to all electric trains? And go away with it? I mean, there's all kinds of things that really are pertinent to the whole culture today that do tie back to transportation. That we got to find the right one that's going to get everybody excited.
If you recall, Mr. Peterson, you bring something to mind. I don't know which meeting it was, but we were going through the report, I think, from the subcommittee that was looking at following up on the last forum. And I believe it was Mr. Carroll that mentioned that it would be neat to have presentations from the jurisdictions talking about some of the projects that are underway. He mentioned, getting staff to go out with a drone and capturing video footage of whatever is the grounds being dug up. But you bring some ideas to mind. I mean, some updates on things that would catch people's attention. The Lego project, the Plenty project, the Diamond District, which, if just stringing ideas together, if we looked at the Diamond District, the Science Museum is very close to there. It's on the pulse line. I believe there's charging stations at the Science Museum. There would be an opportunity there to blend a lot of things together that might be interesting.
The charging thing, a lot of the environmental groups want local governments to stop, make some ordinance or something to stop any more gas stations from being built. Of course, that's unconstitutional, it's not going to happen. But in doing the research, we found that Tesla has made a deal with Wawa, and they're putting them in all the Wawas up and down 95, but only Teslas can plug in because they only have one kind of plug. Their plug is different. There's at least three different types of plugs in electric vehicles. So should we promote everybody having the same kind of plug? I mean, that's one that came forward. But if you're going to have electricity, the charging stations, shouldn't we put them, shouldn't that be something in every gas station? Because we're going to transition. How long did it take you to get rid of your big old clunky TV and get a flat screen? And they even paid us to get rid of the old TVs. It took more than 20 years just to transition from analog to digital, really transition. So it's going to be more than 20 years. I guarantee you these cars go slow. But that would be an issue, like charging your electric vehicle and how do you prepare for that? I know the federal government sent down money, but Tesla made the deal themselves without the federal government. As a business, chamber would like that.
Well, I was just going to follow up. The
Yes.
town has, at its own expense, and the help of the state, has two charging stations, one in the library parking lot and one in front of town hall. Each station has 4 spaces for plug-ins. I like what I'm hearing from everybody in terms of just stepping back in terms of speaking to the public. I think even my wife, as I was telling Chad, doesn't know what the CBTA is. When I leave in the morning, she has no idea. And we had a presentation. She happens to watch our council meetings, probably the only one, but anyway, there was a presentation of what the CBTA does and raises money, but how we spend it. And when I got home, she said, "Oh, so that's what you." So pitching it to the general public, keeping it, having some sizzle to sell, I think is really the thing. That also I heard was drones. It'd be neat to have an Amazon delivery, because I think that's the future, the use of drones and delivering to businesses and delivering to residences. How's that going to affect our transportation system?
Add to that, the drones, and I think, and you brought this up, Jeff, about the individual jurisdictions. Times Dispatch has had a series of drones, well, they have the drone pilots that's going out and taking pictures of these places around the thing. Could we get them involved and go to our jurisdictions and get a whole series of these things? If we get public service from the.
Yeah.
business.
Hey, the newspaper, if they delivered it by drone, you know, would be turning the guy who drives too many, but speeding. to the- Hey, that's the biggest problem I'm handling. Yeah.
It's a whole world of drones out there.
And by the way, we're getting the money for the CVTA gas tax. So what happens if we go with electric vehicles?
Yeah, that was a whole.
I mean,
really
that would
address
be a
that,
connection there. You know, gas tax pays for the roads, so how are you gonna pay for the roads if they go all electric? Because the people who have the electric cars get discounted, you know, what, 4,000 to 7,000 from the federal government when they buy one. It used to be, I don't know what they're doing now. But they say, well, you shouldn't charge us, you know, for our car tax because we have electric vehicles. I said, how much does your vehicle weigh? It's on the road, you know. So how are we gonna, and the roads are made out of oil. So we need oil. That's what asphalt is, it's oil.
So
So,
if I could have a little fun, I gotta ask,
Okay.
this Hodges has talked about the electric charging station we have in the library. Is this a good tour? How long do the people have to stay in Ashland to charge, that are going from New York to Miami to get recharged?
Well,
Or spend while they're there?
Well, we haven't done those exact numbers, but I think it takes a couple of hours. So in that time, they can go eat and shop at Refunk It.
well, I do, there's one, Publix has a program where they have chargers. I don't think they do it, they contract it out. And the people go and park their car and charge. And then they go out, they're hoping, I think, that they'll go in the Publix, you know, go grocery shopping.
Yes.
It takes anywhere 20 to 45 minutes or something.
Yeah,
One's a quick charge, you know, so there's longer.
I
I don't know what they, the, one of them was 27 cents per kilowatt hour. I don't, you know, I'm not sure.
we're always looking for ways to pull people off 95.
Exactly.
That's one of them.
Free charging.
Yes. Well, no, you get charged.
Yeah, but you put your credit card in.
Yes.
Button, and it charges up.
It's free. Just put your credit card.
Next to a restaurant.
Do you have any thoughts? Anything?
Well, no, I apologize for being late to the meeting, but I ended up doing the stimulus package in 3 localities, getting you buying gas. So it was a journey getting over here today. 45 minutes. But anyway, it's interesting to hear the discussion because the evolution of the transportation form has taken different beings as it's gone through time. I think we first did it back in 2013. There was a different purpose in 2013. And then it was a different purpose, you know, when we did the transportation form last, because at that point we wanted to communicate that to the public how the 3 organizations work for planning and funding transportation in Central Virginia. That was the emphasis, but it missed the mark. For all the reasons we've talked about among us, you know, just now, the only people there were us. Public wasn't there. Similarly, when we had the meeting with the transportation secretary down in Colonial Heights, it was us again. So somehow I like the discussion about what we're talking about now, drawing in interest from the community, from the region, to understand what we're doing for planning and funding transportation. Because we really haven't gotten there yet. That's my opinion. And getting the word out. So I'm happy to hear these discussions this morning because it seems to be in the right direction of how we can better get in the community, do what Frank Thornton's been talking about for 100 years. And that is communicate what we do to the public as an organization. And in this case, most of us wear hats in other organizations like CBTA, Plan RBA. So it's an important discussion that you're having, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, no, I think the key there is how you publicize it. You mentioned Frank, and I've done it too. Frank has town meetings, and the town meetings are close to where these people live. So if you make the location kind of far away, they're, you know, they really, I hate to say it, but they're usually only interested if it is related to like a zoning case, you know, near them, or a road you're gonna widen near them. I mean, it just, we're interested, but they often are not.
Sure.
And I've used the same topics he has for my town meetings, and I get maybe, I don't even get 10 people there. And I have two of them, one at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and one at 6:30, you know, to make sure I can get people who can't drive after dark. And, but it's what speaks to them. They might come to something, you know, if it's really, like I said, really flashy or something. But if they had to park and get on a bus to go somewhere, I could say, no, I'm not doing that. I mean, it's too easy to back up.
Yeah. And I guess we're not talking about trying to attract just broad general members of the public. I think we attract both public, but participating with starting point, we participate with the Greater Richmond Chamber. Is that, you all like that idea? That's
Love that.
The other thing is to video, not videotape it, but record it. I think that's where you can record it and put it online. And then you can point people to the promotions.
yeah, I mean, that's part of the communications effort, I think, is to have it accessible for folks if they want to see what we're doing. But for the forum, we obviously, I like what y'all was saying, some kind of sizzle or draw to attract these partners we're talking about. And hopefully when you get the chamber, if the chamber has the capacity, willingness and interest to participate, we haven't asked them, but I think I'm hearing from you all, no objection to giving them a call and talking to, you know.
Make sure that those, you know, each of the local chambers are also tied to chamber
Absolutely.
RBA, so that they really need to make sure it includes all inclusive chambers.
Absolutely.
But I sort of like, I know we have traditionally tried to have this in the jurisdiction of whoever's chair at the time. And, but I'm not too sure, again, that isn't for our own benefits, again, not for the public. And maybe what Ms. O'Bannon said, what about the Richmond Raceway? You know, you're talking about something there, and suppose you had the meeting wrap up at 1 o'clock, and then we had a special event that people could stay for their option.
You make it right.
With something, maybe right around the track, with in the pace car or something, something
I
to
like
make it a more fun thing.
No, I said in the beginning that Houston was willing to host it in part because I understood that tradition and I didn't want to just pass it off, but I'm all on board with what you described.
Chief, we can have a speaker that's like one of the race car drivers.
That's right.
There's a guy I know that is a mechanic, one of the race car drivers, that is a good speaker.
Oh, there's tons of ideas. So we'll start to develop based on this discussion, and we'll talk about it at next meeting. I think, you know, hopefully by next meeting, we'll know chamber is interested to participate. Greater Richmond Chamber, but I've already thought that we're not gonna, that's the starting point, but I certainly, and that's maybe where I'll look to you all to help reach out to your local chamber contacts, tell them what we're doing and however, you know, Chet and I can support. Most of you could probably, but you know, if they want to know more, we're going to be able to tell them more. And I'm certainly going to invite the Goochland Chamber, and because that's how I think that's how we're going to expand that scope of public.
I think we can learn from them because, you know, all you go to your chamber meetings, notice the ones that are well attended, have something fun going along with them besides just the education.
Yeah.
And so, you know, if we have some, this is very educational people, but to get them there, we could use a little carrot, of some kind that says, hey, this is not something that's gonna tax your brain, you can enjoy this.
So what do you think, the mill truck, get those over?
Well,
We went to.
we'd have to do it as an afternoon session instead of a morning session.
Yeah, we like mini breweries. We all had, we got
Micro.
free microbreweries. You got to test which beer you want.
Yeah.
The breakfast beer is really good. Tastes, supposed to taste like eggs and bacon. Okay, Dominion since 1996 has had an electric vehicle. I've served on a periodic.
Okay.
Dominion, you know, we think the power company, where do you think the electricity come from? So paired with electric vehicle company person. Gee, I'd really like to hear about Tesla because they're super expensive, but they made that deal. Wow, I thought that was brilliant. You get free electricity for like 2 years or something if you buy your Tesla. And, you know, and if we're gonna talk about electric vehicles, you wanted flash.
Yeah, no, I think this is great. Thank you. Aaron, did you have any?
I find the whole conversation energized and interested, and I think it's a wonderful concept of having the parents to bring up people. We're a little bit different, but we'll deal just a little bit later. I like to see some areas deal with transportation off the highway. We got that wonderful James River down there. So,
Yeah.
Apple Trail.
well, you get a lot of bikers for it. John will come up, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm sure wherever, if the chamber does a city visit, that there's gonna be a component of it that's gonna talk about walkability and alternative transportation, walking and bikes, I'm sure. So, I mean, we're talking about a lot of stuff we're gonna have to figure out how, because again, y'all are not, nobody's are people in favor of like a half a day where we can get people out by 1:30, 2 o'clock? Is that?
One is better.
Well, one is better. We got a lot of stuff we're trying to squeeze in.
Okay.
But okay, so I think we're gonna look at ideally a transportation relevant location. Maybe a unique, interesting way to arrive, like a pulse ride or something like that we'll explore. And then I'm hearing a lot about a component of future. Again, I wanted to wrap it up and give us a little bit of a break. But are your local transportation and your planners, have they started talking about how things like drone deliveries, are they starting to talk about those things when you're planning for the future?
I would say in Hanover County, we're probably got so much catch up to do in current infrastructure. That's the emphasis on most of us. Trying to get problems solved that we already have.
Right.
Rather than spending great amounts of time, guessing. where we're
Right.
gonna go.
John, the biggest problem we've got, in a rural county like Powhatan is having staff even tuned in transportation. They've got the planning function and then they have to wear another hat called transportation. And that's where we come up short. Because you can often get people that have some type of planning background, but then to bring in, the specificity of transportation planning and bring in the expertise that you get with the transportation department, it's non-existent.
Right.
in Powhatan County.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
if you were done, not necessarily the staff, but there is a member of the Hanover Planning Commission, Alan Abbott, who's on the state air board, whatever the acronym is. And he sent us information about drones and saying that's the future. That's why I'm kind of excited with that idea. And I can put him in contact with Parsons and staff. He's a great resource. I still got this visual of when we're meeting of a delivery from Amazon or whatever coming down and we experience it. That's the kind of thing, that's the sizzle.
We'll have to have a low level air traffic control.
Well, when the people who do the drones have to get certified in being pilot, basically, you know,
Basically,
certain protocol you have to go through.
that is very
Really useful.
Okay, I got caught up in this and I think I don't know how long we spent on it. We don't need the 30 minutes, but I'm gonna wrap it up because we do have a review and I wanted to give us a few minutes to stretch. Thank you all. And we'll continue the discussion. You know, maybe I'll call some of you individually as we, but certainly next month, I think we'll have some more meat on this structure here. All right. Chet, you want to take us through the one or basically, I think one agenda item, or whatever you have to review with us. We'll
Yes, sir.
knock that out.
Thank you. I think the highlight of the agenda for 9:30 is the first item under new business. Mr. Bush is going to bring a TIP amendment to the policy board. This is a big one, and it's exciting because if you recall, CBTA in May made a $100 million commitment in future years to expansion of the I-64 corridor, 29 miles in New Kent, James City County. VDOT has now started moving forward with some of that work, and the TIP amendment is to include preliminary engineering for that expansion of I-64. It's going to be all state money, so there is the other commitment from the TPO other than to approve the action and show the support for moving forward. So that's great to see that the I-64 project is getting kicked off at this time. Mr. Gregory is going to go through the proposed policy for all virtual public meetings. You recall, this is one that we did not address fully the last time we met. Ms. Torres from GRTC is going to give a presentation on the microtransit study that GRTC is wrapping up. We've had some preliminary discussions and information at the policy board at the CBTA about what this study is looking at, but this is very exciting for the entire region, not just the areas that have fixed route bus service. So I especially encourage all of our rural partners to tune in for that study and be prepared with questions. And then I'll give a very brief update on our scenario planning project and how that is moving forward into this coming calendar year. Mr. Chair, that's the bulk of the new items, and you have to take any questions.
I have a question.
Committee members, yes, Mr. Williams.
Do we have a study?
It's not complete yet. We're just getting an update from GRTC.
We have a date for a study
For it to be
completed?
distributed. I think that would be a great question to ask GRTC.
Because I've been hearing study ever since this thing was created, back in 2020. And as a rural jurisdiction, I'm getting questions that continue about why we're sending 15% to GRTC. Now, that's going to be a discussion that's not going to go away because it's real in the rural communities. So yes, I am very interested in hearing where we are with what kind of study, when it's going to get to the
maybe an
end.
explanation or at least titling what this parenthesis.
Okay. Yeah, kind of more of a layman's interpretation.
Something, yes, that they can understand, because they don't know what TIP is. All those
Headline
acronyms.
writer.
Well, nobody understands the acronyms.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just a
that's
comment.
a good thought. Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Holland.
Thank you, sir. You're very kind, all very kind. Thank you this morning. I just want to say hello. We do have a drone park. I'll mention that in Chesterfield, but I don't know a lot of the details. Maybe some of our transportation folks, like Bob Smith, might know about drones, but anyway, I just want to share that. But thank you.
Did somebody from Chesterfield, did you want to talk?
What I was mentioning Barb, I didn't know if she knew anything about drones and drone deliveries. I didn't want to put you on the spot, but
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's hard to hear out here.
Yeah, it's
I
hard
know,
to hear.
yeah, apologize.
I had heard that Walmart on Route 10 was
Okay.
doing 1 mile drone deliveries,
Thank you.
but that's practically a rumor. That's like all I know.
Okay, thank you for that information.
Thank you all. All right, let's take a 10-minute, well, we're adjourned, but, oh, we're going, did you have
I need
another?
to talk to you.
Okay. A 10-minute, well, we are adjourned, but in 10 minutes, we'll be back for our policy board meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's part of